By contrast, years of marketing have taught me that if you actually want people to remember you and to appreciate what you do, the most potent things are actually very, very small. This is from Virgin Atlantic Upper Class. It's the Cruet Salt and Pepper set. Quite nice in itself, they're little sort of aeroplane things. What's really, really sweet is every single person looking at these things has exactly the same mischievous thought, which is, I reckon I can heist these. However, you pick them up, and underneath, actually engraved in the metal, are the words, "Stolen from Virgin Atlantic Airways, Upper Class." Now, years after you remember the strategic question of whether you're flying in a 777 or an Airbus, you remember those words and that experience. Similarly, this is from a hotel in Stockholm, the Lidmar. Has anybody stayed there? It's the lift. It's a series of buttons in the lift. Nothing unusual about that at all. Except that these are actually not the buttons that take you to an individual floor. It starts with garage at the bottom, I suppose appropriately, but it doesn't go up garage, ground floor, mezzanine, 1, 2, 3, 4. It actually says garage, funk, rhythm and blues. You have a series of buttons, you actually choose your lift music. My guess is that the cost of installing this in the lift in the Lidmar Hotel in Stockholm is probably £500 to £1,000 max. It's frankly more memorable than all those millions of hotels we've all stayed at that tell you that your room has actually been recently renovated at a cost of $500,000 in order to make it resemble every other hotel room you've ever stayed in the entire course of your life. Okay? Now, these are trivial marketing examples, I accept, but I was at a TED event recently, and Esther Duflo, probably one of the leading experts in effectively the eradication of poverty in the developing world, actually spoke. And she came across a similar example of something that fascinated me as being something which, in a business context or a government context, would simply be so trivial a solution as to seem embarrassing. It was simply to encourage inoculation of children by not only making it a social event, I think good use of behavioral economics in that if you turn up with several other mothers to have your child inoculated, your sense of confidence is much greater than if you turn up alone. But secondly, to incentivize that inoculation by giving a kilo of lentils to everybody who participated. It's a tiny, tiny thing. If you're a senior person at UNESCO and someone says, "So what are you doing to eradicate world poverty?" you're not really confident standing up there saying, "I've got it cracked, it's the lentils," are you? Our own sense of self-aggrandizement feels that big, important problems need to have big, important, and most of all, expensive solutions attached to them. And yet what behavioral economics shows time after time after time is in human behavior and behavioral change, there's a very, very strong disproportionality at work. That actually what changes our behavior and what changes our attitude to things is not actually proportionate to the degree of expense entailed or the degree of force that's applied. But everything about institutions makes them uncomfortable with that disproportionality. So what happens in an institution is the very person who has the power to solve the problem also has a very, very large budget. And once you have a very, very large budget, you actually look for expensive things to spend it on. What is completely lacking is a class of people who have immense amounts of power but no money at all.